Brothers, when the allegations against Tectone came out, I was one of the few people that didn't believe them. Now, why did I not believe them? Well, because I used logic and I used my brain. I looked at the details of the situation and completely and totally removed Tectone from it. Because it doesn't matter if it's Tectone, it doesn't matter if it's Nicholas Diorio. It doesn't matter who it is. If there's a guy that is getting accused of something, you should, at the bare minimum, take your feelings out of it. Hell, even if it's Hassan Piker. It would be funny for Hassan because he accuses people of crimes and being rapists. But if Hassan were to actually be accused by a woman, I would 100% take Hassan out of it, look at the details, and get to the conclusion, because it's not about one guy. It's about a culture of men being destroyed off of allegations. We saw this with Johnny Depp. We've seen this with dozens of men. And it's absolutely wrong. But here's the thing about the situation with Tectone. I looked at who was making the accusation. I looked at what the accusation was. I looked at the fact that this girl had a past, a history, somebody that was an OnlyFans model. I looked at what her timeline was. I looked at the details. I didn't make an emotional knee-jerk response. I didn't run, Tectone. If Tectone were guilty of sexually assaulting a girl, I would criticize him harsher than about on par with anyone else. Because that's what you do. It's just morality. But I think that a lot of people, they jumped in because it is Tectone and they may have a predisposition not to like him. And you know what? That's fine. It is your prerogative if that's what you want to do. But I don't operate that way. And by the way, we're going to watch a video explaining this, and people are realizing how wrong they were. I didn't need an hour-long video because I used my fucking brain. And it's what I encourage people to do all the time. Use your brain. Before knee-jerking to a position, use your brain. Look at who is saying it. Look at why they're saying it. Look at how the situation started. Take all of these different things into effect. If there's a court case, what district is it in? What is the judge's background? All of these different things are pieces of a puzzle. And if you want to be a logical thinking person, you have to take all of this into account. You can't just feel something immediately and then go all in, because you may find yourself in the position that a lot of these detractors are, where they've gone so far in a position that no matter what evidence comes out, no matter how wrong they are, they have to continue to maintain that position because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. They don't want to apologize. They don't want to take one step back. And that is a dangerous, disastrous position to be in, because that's how reputations are ultimately destroyed. So, we're going to be watching this video from Think Before You Sleep, a channel with over 1 million subscribers. Congratulations, that's very impressive. It says, what dating an OF girl is like. And I think that, guys, I think we are in for a very special type of video. Because, well, first of all, we get to dunk on Mizkiff, which is always a treat. But then we get to go in and take a look at the current state of the war on men. And there is a war on men. And anyone who tries to tell you that there's not a war on men is lying. And it is facilitated and promulgated and propagated by simps and women. Simps and Karens. Simps and feminists. The war on men is real. We've seen it. Where it's cancel first and then ask questions later. And very rarely, if ever, is it exactly how it was presented in the first place. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the vindication of Tectone.
Lost. She had one, and she won. That's how bad it was. For the
Yeah, Mizkiff basically says here that Tectone had 5 lawyers and she had 1. That's not true. Tectone had 1 lawyer. How do I know? Because I went through the transcripts. We went through the transcripts on screen. On stream, in front of everyone, in front of God and country, we went over the transcripts. We went over every detail. We looked into this situation, and no, he did not have 5 lawyers. This is a complete and total lie to make it seem like, oh, Tectone is super guilty, and even with 5 lawyers, he lost. This was a feminist radical activist judge granting a protective order. This was not a criminal case. This was not a case to determine the guilt or innocence of Tectone.
Next 10 years, Tectone can't own guns and has to pay all of her attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I've heard it's nowhere near that. I've heard it's nowhere near hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think the final thing was like 15,000, 20,000, which is a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But it's not hundreds of thousands. That's Ms. Kiff lying, exaggerating yet again.
Thanks, Ms. Kiff. We can always trust you to report things accurately. In case you haven't heard, Twitch streamer Tectone and an ex-girlfriend of his who goes by Pinkchu have been in a legal battle after Pinkchu publicly accused Tectone of sexually assaulting her. Recently, Pinkchu filed for a protective order, which is to prevent stalking and harassment, and Tectone lost a motion to get it dismissed. Now, before we get into all this, let me just say that I'm not even remotely neutral on whose side I'm on. I started out neutral. I started out with the mindset of, let's take a look at the facts of the case. Maybe there's some nuance here. Maybe both parties did something bad at certain points. Usually that's how relationships in particular work. But my mind changed when I began researching, and I think after you guys watching see the details, you'll come to the same conclusion that I did, which is that this is a massive failure of the justice system, which is why this video is...
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with him. And you know what? Believe it or not, I had the same outlook when I started. I looked at this and I went, wow, okay, you have a complaint between 2 parties. Let me take a look at Tectone's past. Let me take a look at some of the videos. Let me take a look at the situation and make a determination based on what we've seen. Yeah, so let me show you. Let me show you what we're dealing with here. What we're talking about here. Anyone who thinks that this girl is a victim, anyone who thinks that this girl, by the way, this was posted for Valentine's Day. This was posted for Valentine's Day. This is what she posted online herself. Anyone who believes that this woman is a victim is crazy or a simp. By the way, you may think, oh, one picture where she does some crazy thing with her tongue. One picture? Real? One pic? Oh, what? One pic? Oh, one picture? Oh, it's just one video, guys. It's just one video, right? No. This is a pattern of behavior. This is a pattern of behavior from this whore. And she is somebody that absolutely has no problems with being degraded and honestly degrading herself. She has no problem with that. So the idea that this is some poor innocent dame, guys, she's some poor damsel, mean old Tectone. He came along and she was just pure as the driven snow, and he came along and he's like, I'm gonna force you. Does that look like the type of girl? Honestly, this looks like the type of girl and the way she acts that would say, hey, I'm late on rent. I'm not saying that she did this, but I'm saying she looks like the type of girl, and with this content, that she'd be the type of girl to say, well, maybe I can't pay rent. Maybe I'll deal with it in other ways. I'm not saying she did that. She just seems like the type that would do that. It's that sort of promiscuous, no standards, just sort of gross. Like, this is what she posts online of herself. Like, and I'm supposed to destroy Tectone for this. No. I looked at the situation. I found that there was a lot missing in the story, and I have from the first thought that Tectone didn't do anything wrong. Or maybe I shouldn't say didn't do anything wrong, but not to the way that they're explaining it. These people are accusing Tectone of rape. That's the standard. The thing that Tectone did that was wrong was allowing this woman to live in his house. That was absolutely wrong. You shouldn't be living with a woman before marriage. You shouldn't. Also, Tectone, You're dumb as shit for getting involved with a girl who's also working with you. I have plenty of criticisms for Tectone, but none of them have to do with the crimes that were alleged. It's just bad judgment when it comes to women. But it seems that Tectone, thankfully, has found a girl that he's getting married to. So I hope Tectone obviously learned his lesson from this, and now he's going to go on to start a family. I can't wait. That's going to be amazing. Yeah, somebody chat says he's retarded, but it's not Mouse. True, brother. He's a bald retard, but he's not a bald malicious retard.
As a defense of Tectone, it's about how, in my opinion, none of the assault allegations were true, and it's about how this whole situation was a coordinated effort from multiple streamers to ruin his career. That being said, Tectone, or John, is a popular Twitch streamer who started out by playing gacha games.
I played Genshin Impact, so you don't have to. So it's Breath of the Wild, but worse, but with waifus. Also, be careful of shit-talking Paimon's English voice acting.
More recently, Tectone is known for calling out how entitled the least talented video game voice actors are, and for helping expose Hassan Piker as an animal abuser. And this is Pink Chu.
Hey, officer, you ever realize how hard it is to say rough 2 times in a row?
Rough?
Good boy.
Well, that was cringe. Anyway, Pink Chu, who also goes by her middle name Ashley, is an OnlyFans creator who's achieved success after getting a very
An OnlyFans creator, yeah.
noticeable amount of plastic surgery.
Oh my gosh! This is the same girl? Yeah, guys. Yeah, this girl, she's more plastic than man, twisted and evil. You know how Obi-Wan says that Darth Vader's more machine now than man? Well, this woman is more plastic than woman.
Surgery, followed by a generous use of photo editing tools. I mean, this is an insane amount of catfishing.
Oh my gosh! Guys, oh my good God! Oh gosh! Guys, this is look at this! This is false advertising if I've ever seen it. Oh my gosh! That's nuts! Guys, you gotta be wary out there. These women are witches. They have this ability to just like change the way they look. You need like the lens of truth. Oh gosh, we need a guy out there to invent glasses that can help see through makeup. That's what we need.
I'm not even looking at the same person when I compare a live stream to a photo of her. Which brings us to November 20th, 2024, where Pink Chu goes on an alternate account to make a post accusing someone of forcing her into oral sex, and everyone immediately assumed that she was talking about Tectone.
If you can believe it, Tectone actually is a piece of shit. His ex-girlfriend, Pinky Chu, she's come out to speak
Denim's calling somebody a piece of shit is one of the greatest projections I've ever seen.
About his sexual assault against her. How do you know that she's referring to Tectone? Because it's on LSF and they're not following each other anymore.
She's referring to this live stream fails post from an anonymous account announcing that Pink Chu was referring to Tectone. I mean, there were also obvious context clues like saying they live together, and who posts something to a public forum if they believe that the audience isn't going to know who they're talking about? So let's be clear, everybody on the internet knew this was Tectone despite her not saying his name in the post. So obviously Tectone had to respond, and he did so at first by not specifically naming who he was talking about.
So if you're confused, you're going to stay confused. Because this shit is not about content for me. Okay? I know the person who needs to hear this is going to hear this. And I mean this genuinely. I did everything for you. I helped you with everything. I fixed everything for you. I was there for you like nobody else was there for you in your whole life. Your words, not mine.
Now, he does sound pretty mad here, which is why people such as Denims interpreted this as a definite confirmation that he was an abuser.
Your words, not mine.
Oh my god, he even talks like an abuser. Holy shit.
Very glad Tectone is such a dumbass that he doesn't realize how bad this makes him look.
Well, yeah, the problem is that he has an inflated ego and he's stupid, which is like a horrible combination.
It's like, these people are inhuman. These people are genuinely inhuman. Somebody just accused you of crimes, like being a monster. Yes, you would be mad. It's called righteous rage. Oh, he's such an egotist. You know, it's crazy. Denims gets very upset when people like Ethan Klein accuse her of different things. But when it's about Denims, in a lot of cases, it's true. Eli Bedakovic says, first date for any girl should be the pool. Oh, yeah, the pool or the beach. Yeah, no, true. True, brother. Yeah, absolutely.
To have.
Well, that was the projection of the century, and though maybe that video out of context was a bad look for Tectone, trust me, as we go over the court transcript, not Ms. Kiff's transcript that his idiot friend wrote, I mean the actual court transcripts. So when we go over the real transcript, you're going to understand why Tectone was a little angry there. In fact, I think he was quite polite. That transcript is infuriating knowing that it was used to take someone's First and Second Amendment rights away for 10 years. Anyway, on November 22nd, 2024, 2 days after Pink Chu makes her allegations, Tectone confirms on Twitter that Pink Chu was talking about him. He says that she has 2 weeks to apologize and admit that her allegations were false, or he will sue her for what I imagine was defamation.
And again, Templar's not going to criticize, he's not going to criticize Tectone. I am. This was stupid. Tectone, this was stupid. If you're going to sue somebody, you don't threaten to sue somebody, you just sue them. You get your lawyer on the horn, and you say, look, she made this post. Yeah, and you know what? Tectone has admitted this. And you know what? I bet you the next time... I shouldn't say that. If something like this were to happen again, if Pinky Chew were to go off and do something, I can promise you, Tectone would not handle it the same way again. Tectone would call his lawyer. Tectone would be like, I'm going to shut the fuck up. And if Tectone didn't shut the fuck up, I would tweet Tectone, or I would message him behind the scenes and say, Tectone, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Don't say anything. Document everything. Send everything to your lawyer. That is my number one advice to you guys. If you are accused of the shit, do not confirm it. Do not shit talk them. Document it and send it to your attorney. And then take yourself off the internet until the case is done. If you can't control yourself not to talk about it, take yourself off the internet, which eventually Tectone did, but too late. He should have done it the moment that this came out. The moment that it came out. So, yes, I will offer some criticism for Tectone, but the criticisms are based on actions where I'm giving him, in hindsight, this is what you should have done. They're not allegations of things that he did that they're accusing him of. Which is crazy. The allegations are crazy when you actually look into it.
Citing that he will also pursue legal action against those who knowingly repeat her lies with reckless disregard for the truth. Tectone goes on to say that he's willing to work with law enforcement and is ready to prove his innocence. And then Keemstar comments with some words of wisdom at the end. Which brings us to Travis County in Texas on January 23rd of 2026, and a hearing for a protective order filed by Linda Ashley Lamar, that's Pink Chu, against John Robertson, that's Tectone.
Tectone with his 5 lawyers.
Tectone and his 1 lawyer, that's 1 lawyer, Ms. Kiff. I don't know why you would lie about something that was so easy to disprove.
I'm smart. I'm not going live and saying things that are stupid. I'm not going live and being not strategic with my...
Miskip, you're a fucking idiot. And by the way, you're losing your lawsuit with Asmongold. I can't wait to see the conclusion of your defamation lawsuit with Asmongold.
With my words and my actions, I'm being smart.
Right. Miskiff sent a friend of his to go to court and take notes on the day of the hearing. Seems like the information wasn't very accurate. So Tectone's 1 lawyer is Joffrey Purrier, a guy with an enviable jawline, and Pink Chu's lawyer is Michelle Locke, an aspiring self-help influencer.
Life is a journey. Life has ups and downs.
Very insightful words of wisdom. Last, the case is being heard by Judge Dimple Malhotra. Just for clarification, this is a civil case. Conveniently, a lot of these types of allegations seem to be tried in civil courts, probably because the burden of proof there is much lower than in criminal court.
I want you to understand something, chat, that the judge agreed with that. Now, the judge was not empowered to put him in prison directly because that was not a criminal case. Had it been a criminal case and had he been given a bench trial, he would have gone to prison as a rapist right then.
God, these idiots are annoying. For those of you who don't know, Mike from PA is the guy who pretended to be a licensed attorney to run for the Pennsylvania legislature, but the state Supreme Court kicked him off the ballot after they found him misrepresenting himself. Now he's pretending to be an authority on the...
He also pretended to be a man. You all know what image I'm going to pull up, don't you? You all know what image I'm going to pull up. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike from PA is infamous on the internet. He is infamous. Oh, man. I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm so glad you guys are here for this. Yeah, you remember Mike from PA, don't you? You remember Mike from PA? There you go. Yeah. Remember when Mike from PA simped for a girl who was saying $5 a month? You've been in the chat and you don't have $5? Yeah, this is the scene where Mike from PA met her in public and he touched her shoulder. And then he seems to have jizzed his pants. He seems to have come in his pants. And then he does this like retraction like some weird turtle and makes this hideously deformed face that looks like something out of a comic book. Like he got hit with, Joker toxin. And he goes, ow, oh God, I touched you. I touched you. Oh my God. Oh God. Oh God, look at, oh God, I touched a girl, guys. I touched her. And it made me feel funny in my pee-pee area. Like, this is Mike from PA, by the way. I want to let this image burn into your mind. And by the way, Mike from PA is also infamous in another way. I don't know if I can find the clip. Oh yes. Oh yes. Guys, you are in for a treat. This is Asmongold's dad.
Saw that fat fuck asshole Central Committee with his little mustache and fat face and who knows how fat he is if he gets up. And wise mouthing off either this morning or maybe yesterday. And I looked over there just to see, what to shit on. And he's a major one.
Yeah. All right.
Just to let you know and just to let everybody know. And I just checked in the search bar.
Yeah, no, he's not there. I know. They take you off. That's what happened with me.
Right there. He's
Yeah.
there. And he looks like he's alive.
Okay. All right.
He's just off here right now.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Yo, bye-bye.
All right. Yo, bye. Okay. So yeah.
And wise mouthing off either this morning with his little mustache and that fuck asshole Central Committee. So I saw that fat fuck asshole Central Committee with his little mustache and fat face and who knows how fat he is if he gets up.
Asmongold Dad W. Asmongold Dad W. Just roasting Central Committee. Roasting Mike from PA on his stream. Mwah. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, gosh. Anyway, let's continue on.
The law on Twitch. Spoilers, most of the law influencers get shit wrong all the time, and they aren't really that trustworthy.
Ooh, yeah. Legal beagle.
Anyway, in reality, there was a police investigation, but it didn't go anywhere, let alone prosecute. So Pink Shoe claimed that she would put a pause on pressing criminal charges because she was afraid of Tectone retaliating, which I don't believe because he publicly said he would cooperate with the police. And also, if Pink Shoe was actually afraid, she wouldn't have continued to attack Tectone legally. Personally, I think the only reason that a protective order was filed is because she wants to attack him, and there's no way in hell that she would have won a criminal case. Now, just so it's less confusing, and because there's no video of this hearing, as we go over the transcript, I'll put pictures on the side of who is talking. That being said, Pink Shoe's lawyer starts her opening statement by blaming Pink Shoe's lack of evidence to corroborate her story on the fact that she's autistic. Pink Shoe's primary argument here is that, as a person who was nearly 30 at the time, she didn't realize that she was being abused until someone else told her, because she's very slightly autistic. What, did they take that argument from TikTok? So anyway, if there's like a mountain of evidence showing that this was all consensual, well, just ignore that because Pink Shoe changed her mind after the breakup and after Tectone got into a relationship with a different woman. What a convenient set of circumstances. That being said, let's go to the first allegation of assault. Pink Shoe said that she had recently gotten breast implants, so this is a plastic surgery related allegation. Now, I'm going to redact some of this information to make it YouTube safe, but the page numbers are all there, so you can just look it up for yourself. Basically, the allegation was that Pink Shoe could not perform because of her recent surgery, so Tectone found other non-consensual means, allegedly.
Much love to this queen. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that, and then probably get traumatized altogether one more time in the court process, but at least now you have a moment of respite.
To further elaborate on the context here, Pink Shoe testifies that she had been living with Tectone in exchange for sexual favors. Personally, I don't believe this version of the story at all. After reading through the transcript, it is very clear to me that they were living together because they were in a relationship. For reference, Pink Shoe and Tectone's relationship started in December of 2022, and they broke up around June or July of 2024. About a month later, in July or August, Tectone meets his now fiancée, Sophia, and a few months later, in November, Pink Shoe accuses Tectone of sexual assault. Which brings us to the second allegation. Again, pictures are here to indicate who is in the conversation. If you see a Q, though, that means a lawyer is talking, and if you see an A, that's going to be either Tectone or Pink Chew talking. Anyway, Pink Chew said that she had just gotten lip filler, and Tectone had forced her into oral.
Yes. Yes, somebody in chat says, so her defense was that she's retarded. Yes. Yes, she's a 30-year-old adult woman who apparently has enough cognitive faculties to whore herself out on the internet. So she can be trusted to whore herself out on the internet. She can make that determination. But anything in terms of accountability and responsibility, no, forget it. That's apparently the way that it works.
Sex, which had ruined the lip filler. Geez, another plastic surgery related incident? Do all of her allegations have some sort of plastic surgery involved? Now, is there any corroborating evidence that this happened? Not really. There may have been a doctor's appointment where she had to get the lip filler fixed. However, that doesn't prove anything because she could have just as easily screwed up the filler through regular consensual activity or something else entirely. But these are pretty much the allegations of assault. Now, when I say that Pink Chew had no evidence of this stuff occurring, understand that her own testimony counts as evidence from a legal standpoint. So allow me to clarify what I mean. I'm saying she had no additional evidence to verify the truth of her story.
True.
And let me point out just how ridiculous this is. Tectone is a guy who is constantly on camera.
There's like a good 8 to 10 people who have already said, he didn't do it. We know he didn't do it. We were there when they said it happened. That never happened. They say there's a third girl. They don't exist. They don't realize that the entirety of, a large portion of my house is fucking filmed on the inside of security cameras on the inside. That's how fucking paranoid I am.
This is a guy who streams for multiple hours a day, plus the couple streams that he did with Pink Chew. You're going to tell me that you have no footage, no audio recordings, and no text that make him look abusive or make him look like a stalker? You also have no testimony from other witnesses saying that Tectone was abusing you? This is despite the fact that there were two...
Yeah, that's another good point. You mean to tell me that there are, the only people that were accusing Tectone of being guilty were other retarded whores that hated him, like Peach Jars. And who the hell is going to listen to Peach Jars? She's an idiot, and she's a whore. There's no validity to any of these accusations. It just seems like a smear job based on politics and personality differences.
Roommates living with them the entire time. So either Tectone is this master manipulator who can get away with all of this without a trace, which is a weird thing to argue because his opposition is constantly calling him stupid.
When he's literally I don't know how anyone fucking ever listens to this guy.
He's dumb as I honestly think
he's an idiot, but he's a master. This is the same thing they do with Trump. Guys, Trump isn't a retard, he's cognitively declined, but he's also Hitler, he's Machiavelli, he's the mastermind behind all of this. Yeah, these people, they just say stuff. They don't actually have any logic behind it. There's no reason behind it. There's nothing there. This fat airheaded retard doesn't have anything concrete or substantive to back up what he's saying.
he needs to be arrested just so he can experience what that is like. So he shuts the fuck up and goes away.
I genuinely don't understand how someone could be so fucking stupid to think that this is a good response.
So either he is this master manipulator who can fool anyone, or none of this shit happened, in my opinion. On that note, Pink Chew's lawyer has finished questioning her client, so let's go to cross-examination from Tectone's lawyer, Joffrey. Before we get into this, though, it requires some backstory. For those of you who didn't know, Tectone was previously married for like 10 years to a woman whose name is Jessica. They divorced a while back. Now, to me, the details here are kind of murky because an NDA was signed, and I only really have the court transcript to piece together what was going on. But remember how I said that Tectone has cameras everywhere? Well, it turns out that his ex-wife still had remote access to the cameras after the divorce, and allegedly, she was using some intimate footage between Tectone and Pink Chew to blackmail them. And how this didn't land his ex-wife in jail is beyond me. Anyway, a lawsuit was filed, and a part of this lawsuit included Pink Chew suing Tectone's ex-wife because she called her Tectone's sex slave. Let me repeat this. Pink Chew sued his ex-wife because she accused her of being victimized by Tectone. Pink Chew said it was defamatory to call her an abuse victim. Not only that, but this lawsuit occurs 1 month after her alleged incidents of abuse, and she says these claims about her from Tectone's ex-wife were disgusting lies. What a weird thing to say, right? So that's our first counter to Pink Chew's story, and just right there, throw the case out. You mean to tell me that someone called her an abuse victim and she spent money suing them to say, no, I'm not? The second part of this is that Pink Chew went to a mental hospital in July of 2024, around 1 to 2 months after the alleged victimizations. When she's being questioned by her lawyer, she states that she went to the hospital because she just had to get out of the house. And if your first thought was, that makes no sense, then I would agree with you. This sounds like a lie. Now, I'm not a fan of Illymation, but I do think she has a very insightful video on mental hospitals. People don't go to mental hospitals just because they wanted to get out of the house. They go because they're either a danger to others or they're afraid of harming themselves.
Facilities like this save lives every day. There are two types of admission. The first is voluntary, which is where you go to the emergency room and say, "Hi, I don't feel safe. Can you please help me?" And the second is involuntary, which is where your doctor or psychiatrist feels you're at grave risk to yourself or others. So they write you a note and send you to the hospital.
So it's a weird downplay from Pink Chew to say that she just needed to get out of the house. If she wanted to do that, she could have just checked herself into a hotel or something. Note that Pink Chew has more than enough money to do this. Also note that this admission into a mental hospital seems to have happened directly after Tectone broke up with her, so I'm guessing that the breakup caused thoughts of self-harm. Actually, it looks like the redactions here suggest something a little bit worse than self-harm. So honestly, I think checking herself into the mental hospital was a psychologically healthy thing to do. However, the issue with this hospital visit is that it works as evidence against her story of abuse. Let me start by saying that when she's being questioned by her lawyer, Pink Chew said that after she got back from Austin Oaks, the mental hospital, she moved in with her mom, but as she was getting her stuff from Tectone's house, she told a roommate of his about how afraid she was of Tectone. Now, anytime you go to the hospital or see a doctor, they're going to ask you, why are you here? Surely if Tectone was so abusive that she just had to get out of the house.
And you know, this is the thing, this is the part where I really just start to lose my composure. I start to get genuinely pissed off. Because when I was reacting to this, that was one of the first things that I thought. Okay, so you have this guy that's so abusive. This guy's such a monster. This guy, Tectone, is, well, he doesn't beat her. He doesn't beat her, he doesn't hit her. He doesn't, he doesn't get drunk and then, force her to, he's not really, well, I kind of gave him consent to film us, 100% give him consent to film us every time, and then he stopped asking, and so then, in my mind, I withdrew consent, but didn't verbal, every bit of this is just dog shit. And anyone who's being honest will say, you know what? I may not like Tectone. I may think he's a bald retard, but there is nothing here to say that he did this. It is a special type of demon that will say, you know what? Yeah, doesn't really seem concrete, doesn't really seem definitive, but I don't like Tectone, so I'm going to breathe life into this. I can't imagine being such a scum-sucking vermin. Even people that I don't like, I wouldn't do this to. But people like JSTOK and Nick Diorio and all of these fucking losers, these former Destiny orbiters, by the way, the fact that these people would be talking about sexual assault and stuff when they're former Destiny orbiters, it's fucking crazy. It is crazy. But the fact that you have all of these inconsistencies, all of these, I didn't think this, but I thought this. This girl knew what sexual assault was. She knew what rape was. She told them about the rape that she had prior. If Tectone were doing this, she 100% would have said, yeah, this guy's doing this. But she didn't at the examination. So there is no validity to any of this. The only mistake that Tectone made was allowing this succubus demon into his home. He never should have done it. He was thinking with the wrong head. Which, by the way, is probably also bald. He shouldn't have done it. If there's a reason why they say don't live with a woman until you're married. Now, obviously, in modern day, people are going to ignore that. But there's a reason for it. Because you don't truly know who people are. And until you've made those vows that make you inseparable, that you are now one flesh under God, until you have that sort of connection, you don't really know.
And she had to tell his roommate how afraid she was. She would have also told the doctors, well, you see, I have this really abusive ex-boyfriend. But she didn't do that. In fact, the doctors specifically asked her if she had been a victim of abuse. Pink Chew says yes, but she doesn't mention Tectone. She mentions a prior non-Tectone relationship, and that's it. Keep in mind that the time period where she is alleging the abuse happened was 1 or 2 months before she goes to the mental hospital in July. Also keep in mind that Pink Chu testified that she told Tectone's roommate 3 or so days after this questioning from the mental hospital, or around the same time, that she was afraid of Tectone, noting that his roommate did not come in to testify on her behalf. She can't even get that corroborated, so I don't see how this can be considered as anything other than crucial evidence that Pink Chu is making all of these allegations up. Now, her argument for why she didn't report to the...
Yeah, where is the roommate? Where's the roommate? See, if Tectone were abusing this girl, if he were like this abusive animal, people would testify against him. People would be like, yeah, no, totally. He was totally abusing her. He was totally hitting her. Where is the actual evidence? Oh, her testimony is evidence. Yeah. She's lying. So, yeah, it's evidence, but evidence against her because she's not telling the truth. As evidenced by the contradictions in her story.
The mental hospital that she had been assaulted by Tectone is because she just didn't see it that way at the time. But again, immediately after she gets out of the hospital to collect her stuff, she tells Tectone's roommate about how scared she is. Conveniently, this change of story happens in a place where it couldn't be documented as evidence. Because, if you were an abuse victim who is fleeing your house because you're afraid of your ex-boyfriend, certainly you would want to tell medical staff later so it could be used as evidence in a police investigation. This is why I don't believe anything that Pink Chu says. There are tons of holes in her story and really nothing to defend her outside of taking her word for it. But that's not all. Before Pink Chu goes to the mental hospital, there are text messages between her and Tectone, where Tectone, or John, says, "Text me when you're on your way, and please be safe." And then she tells him what hospital she's going to be at. He also says, "If you need me, just text me. I'm sorry you're going through this." So when I read stuff like that, I think, wow, there was so much documented evidence of Tectone being supportive, but when it comes to him being abusive, you just have to take people's word for it. Isn't that odd? This is like no case of abuse that I've ever seen. Abusive people usually leave evidence everywhere because they can't help themselves. We're not done yet. Pink Chu and Tectone's lawyer Joffrey discuss her leaving the mental hospital, and there's this part where Joffrey says, in fact, I believe he's listed, and the rest is blacked out. Judging by the context clues, I'm guessing that he's saying that Tectone was listed as an emergency contact, considering that Tectone said stuff like, "If you need anything, let me know," and Pink Chu told him what hospital she was going to be at. So again, extremely weird behavior here, especially considering that Pink Chu communicates that her mom lives somewhere in the area, so why is she using her alleged abuser that she's afraid of as a contact instead of her mom? Moving on, let's talk about why a protection order was granted. In Texas, in order to get a protection order, the standard of proof is reasonable to believe. This is kind of a major issue for me when it comes to family court, and I think the law around this needs to be modified to prevent abuse, especially in cases like Tectone's where there is tons of counter evidence to his accuser's story. Reasonable to believe is a very low standard. It's like saying if one person thinks, yeah, that could have happened, that's enough to grant an order in Texas. This standard is even lower than the more likely than not to have happened standard, which is what we're all used to hearing about in civil court cases.
This is in Texas. I want to say this again. This is not California. This is not New York. This is not Illinois. This is not Massachusetts. This is Texas.
He's implying that it's impossible to get an order of protection in Texas when actually it seems to be fairly easy. Here's Michelle Locke, Pink Chu's lawyer, on her podcast, saying that the standard of proof in these kinds of courts is very low.
When it comes to marriage and there are abusive instances, how important is it for someone to have that documented?
Your testimony alone can be enough. And people think, well, really? I don't have to have pictures or bruises? I mean, while those things would be great and helpful, it's not a requirement because judges every day make decisions based on the credibility of witnesses. And that's the bottom line. And so the court's going to look at what you say, what he or she says, and then make the call on whether it's a believable story.
Let me remind you that Mike from PA is not a lawyer. He's an idiot propagandist who really seems to have his own boundary issues with women. Just because guns are more legal in Texas doesn't mean that this state always favors the right. A lot of bullshit occurs in Texas too. Also, this legal battle between Pink Chu and Tectone occurred in Travis County, which is where Austin is. Austin is like the California of Texas. But anyway, Pink Chu...
True. Yeah. Major Texas L. The fact that they haven't invaded Austin and deported all the Californians is crazy.
She still has to prove that there is some sort of reason to believe that Tectone will be a danger to her. Before we go into this next section, I would like to point out that neither Michelle Locke or the judge really have a grasp over how social media works. Pink Chu's lawyer Michelle said in the transcripts that she doesn't really understand social media, and in this video that I found of the judge, she openly states that she doesn't really have an interest in being online.
And so, for me, I didn't even have social media, by the way, until I knew that I had to run.
Okay, so this is very important because essentially all of Pink Chu's evidence for why she needs an order of protection and why Tectone is an ongoing threat is because of his social media posts. And if you as a judge don't understand social media, you're going to miss a ton of nuance. It's actually to the point where this court decision is quite scary.
That's devastating. And again, as I said, the more research that you do on Tectone's case, the more that you look into the judge, the more that you look into Pinky Chew, or whatever the hell her name is, Pokey Chew, the more that you look into this, the more that you look into the details, the more that the entire case falls apart. And if you are logical and reasonable and consistent and moral, you will acknowledge that whether you like Tectone or not. I'm not saying you have to like Tectone. You could go, that guy's such a piece of... You could rage and rant at him. But at the end of the day, if you immediately believe something against somebody that you don't like because it's convenient, that says more about you than anything. I'll give you an example. I don't like Hassan Piker. I think he is a despicable, narcissistic lowlife. I think he's a terrorist. I don't think that Hassan is just a terrorist supporter. I think he is terrorist. I think his propaganda rises to that level. Now, Hassan is too narcissistic to put on the suicide vest himself, but he definitely wants to encourage people to commit violence. I know that because on camera, he has said things like, yeah, we definitely should do something about Trump. Like, he said things like that. He posted a picture of a makeshift shotgun that was used to assassinate Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and he tweeted that at Senator Tom Cotton. Yeah, Hassan did that. Hassan is a terrorist. He encourages and promotes violence in situations like that. So, in this situation, I think that you need to look at all the evidence, you need to look at all of the different factors, and make a conclusion based on the facts rather than how you feel. Because Mike from PA Denims, those people are not going to tell the truth. But you calling Tectone rape tone because you don't like him, it does a great disservice to actual victims. It does a great disservice to any sort of argument you may have against Tectone. And it ultimately shows people that you are not somebody to be taken seriously.
And possibly a strong violation of the First Amendment. Personally, I think Pink Chew has taken advantage of the judge's lack of knowledge of social media and using that to lie. To talk about that, let's go to Exhibit 16, I think. This post from Tectone is still live, so I'll just show the actual tweet. It says, another OnlyFans woman lying about rape, then just moves on. No damage done to them. Ruin a man's life for 3 years. Why is this so common? This is from October 21st of 2025, nearly a year after Tectone was accused, and he's signal boosting a post talking about a friend of his from OTK, who I guess was falsely accused. I don't know that situation too well, but that's what's being talked about. Pink Chew says that she believes that the tweet was about her, and then she says that Tectone makes posts like this to try to get his fans to attack her because she does OnlyFans, which is retarded because if you look at the comments on the tweet, you can see that people aren't talking about Pink Chew. You can't even find her name by doing a text search on the page. In fact, you can't see this in the court transcript, but since this tweet is still live, we know who Tectone is referring to in this tweet because he's quote tweeted a post talking about Azalea Lexi. So how in the hell is this comment about Pink Chew? By the way, this is in stark difference to her allegation post, where the top comment essentially is saying, hey, you're talking about Tectone, right? The irony here is that Pink Chew herself made the argument in court that people wouldn't know who she's talking about because Tectone's name wasn't mentioned in her tweet. But if you know anything about the internet, the minute you start vague posting like this, tons of people in the comments are going to start asking, oh my god, who is she talking about? Which will prompt all the know-it-alls to try to be the first person to say that it's Tectone. In fact, here's me doing this with the false allegations against Turkey Tom. You can see that I don't mention Tom in the post. People are asking who I'm talking about, and if you scroll through the comments, you can see several people explaining the reference. This is not like a secret behavior that people have. Anytime some sort of inside joke or a test question is posted on social media, tons of people go to the comment section looking for the person who will explain everything. So in my opinion, Pink Chew left Tectone's name out of this post to prevent a defamation lawsuit, but left in enough clues for people to easily figure out who she was talking about, so her followers would say who it was for her. If she only wanted her friends to know about these allegations like she said in court, she wouldn't have posted it on social media. Anyway, back to Tectone. Here's where it gets scary. Remember that the order of protection was granted, meaning that Tectone is not allowed to talk about Pink Chew. Her evidence that this tweet was about her was purely on the basis of Tectone bringing up OnlyFans, and because she does OnlyFans. She actually makes this argument several times. Here's another one. Exhibit 20. This tweet is also still alive, so I'll just bring it up. He's asking for OnlyFans models to stop giving life advice because you can see them naked for less than a Fortnite battle pass.
Where's her dignity? Oh, I don't know. I heard she's selling it for $5.
This is another post where if you scroll down, you can see that nobody is talking about Pink Chew. Yet she is suggesting that the
base statsman gold out of nowhere. Yeah. You know, if you can see a woman's butthole on the internet for $3.99 a month, why on earth would you ever listen to their opinion or take them seriously on anything? Why would you? If they are making decisions that are that bad, Why would you take their life advice? Why would you take their political advice? No, you should acknowledge what they're doing is despicable and say no.
These posts are targeted at her and designed to train Tectone's audience into hating her. Now, if you were a judge who doesn't use social media that much, you would think, oh, well, that makes sense. Obviously, he's only mentioning OnlyFans because Pinkchu does OnlyFans. Why would anybody else talk about that? Except, talking about OnlyFans girls is an entire meta of content creation that has existed for years. And I don't know, maybe it has something to do with people like Morgpie trying to bend Twitch's rules so she can show her boobs to 13-year-olds and try to get them addicted to pornography. Maybe some of these women deserve to be criticized, so citing these posts as threats and possibly suggesting that Tectone can never talk about OnlyFans because of the order of protection, I think is a massive violation of the First Amendment. Second, in the same way that she cites these posts about OF, she also cites Tectone talking about illegal aliens as a threat towards her, saying, well, I'm half Mexican, so I'm almost a minority, and that means he's victimizing me with these posts. If this type of post counts as talking about...
You fucking retarded whore. You useless, disgusting waste of skin. Oh my gosh. I'm half Mexican? If you're Mexican, I imagine you have to be so offended. It's like, the idea that because you're Mexican, you're illegal is fucking crazy. It is crazy. No, there are millions of legal Mexican U.S. citizens. No, oh gosh. I'm half Mexican, and just things to hate about women and women that have OnlyFans, they get more angry towards me. Like, I'm half Mexican. Who gives it? You're half breed. Like, no one cares that you're Mexican. People care that you're a liar. People care that you're dishonest. Oh my gosh. This is bonkers. This is nuts.
Pinkchu, then Tectone, as a social media influencer, can't talk about the most pressing issues of the past year because his ex-girlfriend is half Mexican? This is very stupid. She continues, and I think this is the most ridiculous part, and I think it's where she takes the most advantage of the judge's ignorance of social media. She says that Tectone makes call-out videos on certain influencers. These kinds of videos, by the way, are extremely common on YouTube. I mean, this reads like she's suggesting that YouTube drama should be illegal. She says here that if a protective order isn't granted, then he will continue relentlessly harassing and threatening her to the point where her life will be in danger. This is absolutely ridiculous. Over the past handful of days, Tectone and Miskiff have made like 18 videos on each other. By her logic, you would think that both of them would have been dead 10 times over by now. Keep in mind that between the breakup in July and the time that Pinkchu made her allegations on November 20th, 2024, I can't find a single instance where Pinkchu's name is mentioned by Tectone, and she certainly doesn't provide any mentions outside of his post on November 22nd. And keep the context here in mind. Tectone and Pinkchu break up. Tectone is silent about Pinkchu until she accuses him of assault. Then Tectone makes a post saying, I'm going to sue you if you don't apologize. In this context, he's just defending himself. Like he is being legally punished here for defending himself against allegations that had no corroborating evidence.
I think this is the main reason why Tectone has become so extreme. And whenever you think about it, really calling somebody a rapist is one of like the top 3 things that you can say to somebody that is career destroying, career ending, or damaging.
Right, that's a career ending allegation. And during the court case, Tectone said that he was dropped from his partnership with OTK almost immediately after Pinkchu's allegations. By the way, if you're thinking she must be the innocent party because she filed for the protective order, note that protective orders get abused actually quite a lot. In fact, if you watched my video on Alexa Nicholas, who was falsely accused of leaking sealed court documents by a good friend of Taylor Lorenz, you would know that she mentioned that she had a stalker who was harassing her and her family. That stalker filed a restraining order against her. So yes, these orders can be weaponized. And speaking of that, here's the fun part. I think this was all a coordinated effort against Tectone from multiple streamers. Let's move on to another stupid argument that Pinkchu makes that you would only think is valid if you didn't understand social media. On page 144, Pinkchu says that Tectone destroyed her streaming career when he made his post on November 22nd. Now, personally, I don't know the validity of her claim. She provides no evidence of this outside of saying that's what happened, and she could have just as easily nuked her own Twitch channel to hide evidence that Tectone wasn't actually abusive, since they did a lot of streams together. But nonetheless, she's suggesting that her online career was over and her life was ruined, which is stupid because her primary income is Fansly and OnlyFans. It's stupid because hating on OnlyFans creators only makes them more popular. Everyone who is good at social media knows that. That's why OF chicks go on podcasts like Whatever or Fresh and Fit and say dumb stuff. It's to promote their content.
When you got kicked off of Fresh and Fit the first time, how much money did you make, girl, afterwards? Like, how many?
Fresh and Fit, there's no one that does more for OnlyFans women than Fresh and Fit. You have helped sex workers more than anybody, I think, in the world. You have given us the world. Every time I come on your show, my money goes way up. And then he kicked me off, and then he invited me back on. So
The only bad press that you can get for OnlyFans is being unattractive. People don't care about the morality of a porn star. It's actually kind of a problem because you can inadvertently make the thing more popular by criticizing it. So Pink Chew suggesting that her life was over after a single tweet from Tectone, where, keep in mind, he was defending himself against allegations with no corroborating evidence. It's his right to do that. So Pink Chew suggesting that her life was over after that tweet couldn't be further from the truth. She's now more popular than ever and has more social media followers than Tectone between Instagram and TikTok. In fact, don't take my word for it. Take it from Mujin, who said on Twitter, "Let it be known that from this point onward, anyone still caught defending Tectone is purposefully ignoring facts for what is most likely a desperate and pathetic attempt."
By the way, here's something that I'd like to say, and I'd like to put on the record. Anyone who tries to walk back, apologize, go, "Oh no, Tectone, I didn't mean it," or anyone who tries to do it, this Mujin guy, anyone who tries to walk back now that it's pretty much clear that Tectone didn't do anything wrong, at least in regards to the allegation, and that Pinky Chew is a disgusting, filthy liar and a whore. Now that that is established, now that we have pretty much ferreted out this bullshit, do not ever let these people live this down. They should have to live with the stain of this forever. This guy Mujin should get made fun of no matter where he goes. For the rest of his YouTube career, this guy should get made fun of. This is a coward that completely and totally ducked any sort of responsibility because he put himself above the truth. He didn't care about the validity or the veracity of the claim. The only thing he cared about is, I have to get out there and distance myself because I have to make this about me. Do not ever let these people think that you've forgotten who and what they are. This spineless coward should have to spend every day on stream getting bullied for what he did. This sort of cowardice should come with a major, major cost. That's my take on it.
At gaining favor or clout? I mean, maybe, though I'm not sure what facts he was talking about. Note that he said this before the transcript was made available, so real smart of him to not wait until the evidence was public. However, you can see that he is very much on Pink Chew's side, and more
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. He didn't wait for the transcripts. He didn't wait for anything. He rushed out there to say something because this guy is an absolute coward. Do not ever let these people live this down. They should have to live with the shame of this for a long time.
importantly, you can see him stating here that she makes significantly more money than Tectone. Weird, because a statement like that makes her look like she's the one who actually has more power, and thus makes her look like the aggressor. But here's the part where things get interesting. Again, you would have to understand social media to recognize this stuff. On this page, page 144, Pink Chew mentions a girl named Morgan, and then she says that she went to Los Angeles to do collabs. I think it was a mistake to say this, because Morgan is almost certainly Morgue Pie, a person who Pink Chew has done numerous collabs with.
Not me. That's funny because I picked that card in a different group and it was me. But I'm a big one.
Again, she's done a number of collabs with Morgue Pie, like this one here at the gym. God, she must edit her photos a lot. I'm not even looking at the same person when she's on video and in a place where she can't cake on makeup. Anyway, there's tons of video evidence of them interacting with each other, and tons of tweets and stuff, so this person, Morgan, is almost certainly Morgue Pie. Why is that interesting? Well, it's interesting because one of the things that Morgue Pie is famous for is helping signal boost false allegations against the YouTubers who run a channel called Super Mega. Turkey Tom made a huge video on it.
Super Mega is a comedy gaming channel with almost 1 million subscribers, run by Matt Watson and Ryan McGee. Over the past 2 years, the channel has found itself mired in endless controversy. However, none would prove as devastating as those levied in July of 2023. That month, a cosplayer named Lex accused Super Mega's channel artist, Don, of SA. Matt and Ryan were named for mishandling the situation. This sparked enough backlash for a whole new wave of accusations to surface from former friends and employees. Lex's outright lies in her own video poisoned the well, and if her initial story about Don was true, it is severely discredited by the various falsehoods she spread. These falsehoods were supported by her boyfriend, Ethan Is Online, their friend, Nick Is Not Green, their other friend, Leighton Stollard, Morgue Pie, and even Rav. All of these people spread provable lies to smear Super Mega as a brand.
Super Mega was a popular variety channel that had a podcast, and this was quite the Turkey Tom video. It's kind of like an epic set of false allegations, but where Morgue Pie plays a role is that she had a crush on one of the owners named Matt. Matt didn't want to pursue a relationship, but they hooked up twice, and then I think Matt chose a different girl over her.
Honestly, I cried for months over that guy. I was like, give me one of your shirts. You know what I mean? So I posted a picture of me wearing the shirt I took of his onto my personal Twitter, not like my big one, but my other one. And he texted me after ghosting me, after I asked him if he wanted to hang out again that night. He didn't respond to me asking if he wanted to hang out again. He responded with a screenshot of the post and was like, hey, can you take this down? Like, people have seen me in that shirt. Like, they know that shirt. Can you just take down this post?
Did you hear the part where she said she made the post on a second account? Kind of like similar to what Pinkchu did. What an odd coincidence. To quickly sum things up, Morgpie became friends with a disgruntled ex-Super Mega employee named Leighton, whose goal was to do whatever he could to ruin their career. Morgpie's purpose was to basically signal boost and give...
Yeah, so here's the thing. This is a pattern of behavior. We've seen it from these very loose, very immoral women that have no duty of care. They have no ethics, they have no class, they have no standards, they have no integrity. They all band together, these rotten witches, these harpies, and they lie. They lie about guys. And they do it because they get something from it. There's an advantage. There's an advantage. The simps will come and flock and give them money. Everyone will be like, oh, you poor victim. They'll get attention, they'll get money, they'll get clout, and ultimately, all it costs is them saying something that's not true and never being held accountable. Now, if it were up to me, the punishment for these women lying would be severe. It would be imprisonment. They'd go to the work camps. Because if you're going to destroy a guy's life, if you're going to take away his Second Amendment right, his First Amendment right, you're going to casually destroy this guy, there are going to be consequences if you're lying. And Pikachu, I think she's lying. Based on what everything that I've seen, all the evidence, it seems pretty clear that she's not telling the truth. And if somebody has a problem with that, if you genuinely have a problem with that, you're welcome to come on the show and we can talk about it. But I think that you're a simp. I think that you are letting your emotions run away with you. The details and facts of this case are absolutely ridiculous.
Validity to all of the provably false things that Leighton was saying about Super Mega. During this time, she also doxes the ex-girlfriend and current girlfriend of one of the owners, and it seems like the doxing was intentional to get back at him for picking another girl over her. Again, these are very familiar circumstances.
So I was just talking about personal details being unnecessarily mentioned and weaponized to make me look worse. And unfortunately, more people have jumped on that bandwagon. One of those people being Morgan, aka Morgpie. Morgan not only brought my current girlfriend into the situation on stream without her consent, she also name dropped my girlfriend and revealed that we were in a relationship, which was not public information. I'm very private about my relationships, so this was a big blow. Morgan also brought my ex-girlfriend into the picture without her consent and has strongly hurt her because of this. She lied about conversations with my ex-girlfriend. She wrongly stated that I had been having a multiple-month affair with my current girlfriend while I was dating my ex-girlfriend. She also lied about not knowing who my current girlfriend was, because she did know who that was and she used it as a segue to name drop her. She also falsely claimed that I was cheating on my current girlfriend, which is not true. They are both being harassed viciously and their personal lives are being used as weapons to make me look worse, and I think that's completely unacceptable.
And by the way, even though the allegations were false, they still succeeded. Super Mega took a huge hit and it really hasn't been the same since, even after Super Mega was exonerated in the eyes of the public. So if you're wondering why people do these tactics and coordinate these ops on Discord and stuff, it's because they work. So where am I going with all this? Well, Pinkchu's official story is that she thought her...
Yeah, these pathetic, loathsome losers. They coordinate like the scum, like the roaches they are, behind the scenes to try to take people out. And the thing that blows my mind is that people still believe it. And I think the reason that people believe it is even though they know that these people are subhuman, demonic, godless, homunculus scum, I think that they view it as entertainment, so they don't really care about the truth. They just go, oh man, yeah, this person's bad. Well, I'm going to call them bad in public because then I feel good. I think that's a lot of it. I think it's virtue signaling, but not really to even convince people that you're a good person, but to just personally feel better. I feel better about myself because I'm looking down on this person. But these people, understand, it's a mirage. It's an illusion. There's nobody lower than these people. There is nobody lower than these people. These people on the left that exist in these detractor and commentary spaces, they are the biggest dents in the world. They are the biggest losers in the world. There is nobody below them. They have no real morality. They have no real integrity, no class, no dignity. They're putrid. And you can tell by the audiences that they cultivate and the message that they put out and the type of content that they exist in. They don't create anything, they just destroy. And there's not an ounce of validity in anything that they say. Not one. I've not seen one of these detractors put out a video and go, wow, this is something new, interesting, innovative, cutting edge. No, it's always some just piece of slop content. Making an accusation that in a lot of cases are just purely baseless.
Her relationship with Tectone was all consensual until after the breakup and after she confided in a friend who told her that actually she was being abused. And yes, this sounds very much like I consented to sex and then changed my mind later. It's like 2015 college feminist behavior. Anyway, my personal opinion is that the friend who Pink Chu talked to was Morgue Pie, which is why her name randomly slips in the transcript. And I think the actual reason that Pink Chu is doing all of this is because she's mad that Tectone broke up with her, and she's mad that he is with someone else after she clearly was still into him when the relationship ended, based on texts that were shown in court. And what I mean is that on page 113, after the breakup, before she goes into the mental hospital, she's talking about how much she loves him and says, "I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. I'm going to get a full psych evaluation and get some real help." So I've read certain parts of this transcript a lot of times, particularly this part, and here it sounds like the actual story is that she was having regular psychological breakdowns. He got tired of putting up with it, so her going to the mental hospital was like, "No, wait, I swear I'll change." I would also guess that she was threatening self-harm if he broke up with her, which is why she's saying, "I'm sorry if I ever hurt you," which again, makes her look like the abuser because threatening self-harm is emotional blackmail. Honestly, this visit to the mental hospital looks like some sort of bargain to get him back after the breakup, and I think the actual reason that Pink Chu acted out on social media is because she's pissed off that Tectone moved on to somebody else. Based on the information that I've shown, I don't think this is that much of a stretch. Now, pay attention to who Pink Chu's friend Morgue Pie is friends with. Would it shock you if I said that Hassan Piker is a friend of hers? I don't know how every bad thing on social media...
Brother, oh, it's Hassan. Guys, it's Hassan. She's friends with Hassan. Oh, gross. By the way, guys. Did you know... I don't know how many of you would be aware of this. Did you know that Hassan Piker is a cuck? Yeah. Did you know that Hassan Piker is a cuck? Yeah. It's crazy, huh? Absolutely crazy, yeah. Hassan Piker, he's admitted it. He's admitted it in the past. He's a cuck. Crazy. Oh my gosh. Man, what a piece of garbage.
Yeah, always relates back to this social circle, but it seems to be the case. Why is that important? Well, Hassan Piker has this ongoing war with Asmongold, probably because he's mad that Asmon is more famous than him. Hassan likes to sit back and have his little...
True! Asmon is way more famous than Hassan. Way more. It's not even close.
Lackeys do all the dirty work for him. This is a famous tactic of his, and he primarily works by not directly saying that he has certain values, but he will signal boost all the people who have the values that he wants to promote by watching their content on his stream. That being said, Tectone is friends with Asmongold. Hassan wants to attack Asmongold in any way that he can, so I think his lackeys came up with a plot to destroy Tectone. They do this a lot. Recently, Girl Hassan and promoter of incest, aka Denims, randomly attacked Emiru for being friends with Asmongold and for not talking about her politics, which was stupid and pointless.
Racist chud. Ember is friends with Asmongold, Lakari, Tectone, plus she thinks Ethan Klein's lawsuits are justified.
Asmongold's a bad person. Tectone is a bad person.
But going back to Tectone, seeing that Morgue Pie has already been involved in conspiracy behavior against Super Mega, I don't think it's that unreasonable to say that this tactic is being repeated a lot. Ethan Klein being yet another example of a person who Hassan's social circle has conspired against. So basically, the lackeys create the noise, and then Hassan does stuff like signal boost false information about Tectone that was said by Misgif.
Apparently, Misgif sent like a court reporter to the court to take notes in this process. Then he brought Hassanabi saying, like how when he shocked his dog. So apparently, he did a right-wing pivot, and he thought that, but Hassanabi bad would work.
It did work. And you know what, Hassan? You shocked your dog. You're a dog shocker. Also, Hassan, as we're going to talk about in a little bit, you are inbred. You come from inbreeding.
A court of law. This is why I always say nobody grifts to the left.
Sorry, that last line wasn't super relevant, but it was so stupid that I had to include it. If you read the court transcript, it was actually Pink Chu's lawyer who brings up that Hassan abuses animals, not Tectone. And the reason it was brought up was because of a retarded counter-argument that Pink Chu's lawyer made about the allegations against Tectone having no effect on how much hate he gets, because he brings up things like Hassan shocking his dog. It was such a stupid part of the transcript because Pink Shoe's lawyer is arguing that Pink's pretty direct allegations against Tectone on Twitter of one of the most horrific crimes didn't really have an effect on how many threats he gets because nobody could figure out that she was talking about him, despite numerous people in the comments saying that it was Tectone. But when Tectone says any random thing about OnlyFans, even when he's showing that he's referencing a different person, it's an immediate threat to Pink Shoe's life. So again, I think there's a bigger thing going on here where a bunch of people are collaborating with Pink Shoe to try to destroy Tectone, Morgpie being one of them. By the way, these people are often stupid, so they leave tons of evidence lying around. Here's Mizkif going on a huge tirade during his Tectone video, where he's basically blowing Hassan and the rest of the LA streamer scene.
You attacked Hassan for months, years now, shitting on Hassan, farming so much hate on the guy, acting like he's a problem. You're farming hate on Hassan Piker all fucking day, Frogan, people that are doing shit. You attacked Pokimane, Cutie Cinderella.
I don't think it's that much of a stretch.
Yeah, the worst people on the internet. And Mizkif is glazing them because he wants... Guys, are we going to get a Mizkif iDubbbz arc? Oh, please. Please. I'm waiting for the Mizkif iDubbbz arc. Guys, we need a collab between Mizkif and Hassan. That'll just complete the whole thing.
To say that these people are talking, especially considering they live in the same area. I mean, Mizkif flat out admits to talking to Pink Shoe, but you know, not out of concern for her well-being, but to point out that she didn't think it was weird when he shook her hand for too long that one time.
Then me and his ex-girlfriend started to talk, and I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I never ever said that in my fucking life. Why the fuck would I care about that? Like, I did not shake her hand a long time.
You can watch Mizkif for about 60 seconds and easily see that this guy only cares about himself. Personally, I think all of this drama farming for him is just to make people not pay attention to his ex-girlfriend Emiru's allegations, saying that he was pretty abusive.
After like all of that Rust stuff happened was when the other domestic abuse stuff really started. He would destroy furniture in front of me. He would throw things in front of me and near me. Destroy walls. Again, you can go see this in some of his VODs in his bedroom, the holes in the wall. There would be times where he was upset at me and I would go to my stream room and literally lock myself in to get away from him, and he would be banging on the door and screaming at me. At the time, he also would more often do things like if we were driving in the car together, he would be going like 150 miles an hour, and like one time he even said like, well, now we're both gonna die, like threatening to kill both of us.
Interesting story. So we have Mizkif talking to Pink Shoe. Well,
wow, what an abuser. Man, that guy seems like an abuser, doesn't he? Doesn't he seem like a pathetic, insecure manlet and abuser? Wow. Yeah, threatening her, making her feel uncomfortable, banging on her door. She's got to lock herself in. Man, that's crazy. Can you believe that this Mizkif guy is such an abuser?
of course he was talking to Pink Shoe because he couldn't have known about the court date and where to send his court reporter to take a bunch of factually inaccurate notes. In fact, this idiot friend of Mizkif's who goes by Axion publicly admits to being invited to the court by Pink Shoe.
He knows me. I think he tried to get me kicked out or something. I can only assume. That's not for sure because the bailiff came over and asked me, "Are you here for her?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah." Did Pink know? I said, "Yeah, she signed me up to be there."
What an idiot to have admitted that. So now we know that Mizkif and Axion's involvement was directly approved by Pink Shoe, which is interesting because it seems to be the case that Mizkif has gone on a full-on disinformation campaign against Tectone, where he spreads numerous lies that are easy to disprove if you just look at the court transcript. So now I believe this chick even less. If she was being honest, then she wouldn't have to side with people who constantly make statements of fact that are easy to verify as false. Here's another stupid one that Mizkif said.
And has to pay all of her attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not a small price.
Mizkif, if this is how factually accurate you are in reporting the story, then you should go work for CNN. The fees were around $15,000. It's said out loud in the courtroom, so his friend would have heard it. And you think a guy like Mizkif, who has his own allegations of abuse and is saying they aren't true, would be more careful to accurately report information.
Well, yeah, you would think that, wouldn't you? You would think that Mizkif would be a little more accurate, but you see, Mizkif is a narcissistic idiot. And who knows what kind of drugs this guy is on. And how fried his brain is. Man, this guy is an absolute imbecile. He is a detritus piece of garbage. It's embarrassing.
Especially considering that this stuff is so easy to look up. Anyway, Mizkif also graciously leaked his own DMs, showing that he was talking to Mike from PA, another Hassan orbiter, who went on to repeat other bombastic things about Tectone.
He was talking to JSTLK. Guys, we got him. Oh man, so he was talking to Belle Delphine. He was talking to the guy from the transcript. You know, the guy from the court case. He was talking to Mike from PA, JSTLK. JSTLK, what a fucking loser. What a worm you are. What a pathetic freak. Oh, gosh. Can you imagine, like, how much of a fucking worm you would have to be to collab with Mizkiff or to reach out to Mizkiff? If you watch my video, GST, okay, this guy was a Destiny orbiter, by the way, so it makes sense. He's used to orbiting around pieces of shit.
Tone.
So there you have it, chat. Tectone is a rapist. He is a stalker. He's a danger to the community, and he should absolutely 100% be permanently banned from Twitch. And could someone explain to me why he's not been permanently banned from Twitch?
That is real crazy coming from a guy who was trying to get one of his viewers to assassinate a YouTuber he didn't like. Or was him simping over the $5 a month girl the more egregious offense? And last, as far as I've been able to find, I think Denims is a part of this as well, because she was openly saying that it was Tectone being accused of sexual assault before that was public. So personally, in my opinion, I think this whole situation was not because Pink Chew was afraid of Tectone. I think it was a coordinated effort by people who hate Tectone to try to ruin his career. I mean, also, she has no proof that he's abusive outside of her saying he is. And let me elaborate on what I'm talking about. When Emiru accused Mizkiff of being abusive, she brought receipts. She had Discord messages and then like a million schizo texts that he sent her after the breakup. Now I'm more likely to believe what she says because she can show documented behavior that supports her accusations. As for Tectone, the only time he mentions Pink Chew is after she accuses him of abuse, and what's really going on here is that she made an allegation with no corroborating evidence. Tectone says that's not true, and now he's getting legally punished for it. It's actually disturbing how often these types of situations happen. I mentioned recently that Turkey Tom was falsely accused by an ex-girlfriend of his in a situation that is strikingly similar to Tectone's, where 4 days after the breakup, she goes on to Kiwi Farms to accuse him of physical abuse, filming without consent, and engaging in weird fetishes.
Recently, I've been accused by an ex-girlfriend, along with an ex-partner, of non-consensually filming sexual encounters, being so rough and inconsiderate during sexual encounters that it bordered on assault, encouraging eating disorders, being into age play, along with a litany of other completely baseless, false accusations.
The reality was that his ex-girlfriend, Rowan, was actively consenting to everything, including being filmed. She had a bunch of creepy fetishes, and she was trying to push Tom into behavior that he didn't want to engage with.
He never asked me. He would just pull out his phone and record. I wouldn't notice until maybe 30 seconds in a minute or a minute into it.
Now, I obviously can't and would never show these videos to anyone, but in them, it's undeniable that she is staring directly into the camera from the moment the video starts. Because the reality is that every single time we recorded, I had explicit permission. Rowan texts me saying, quote, "Rape thing is so hot." My response to this is, consensual sex is good.
It's funny because Tom sends texts like the FBI is watching. I just want to make sure that we've established that this is all consensual, okay? Somebody knew this was coming.
In the interview, it stated that our breakup took place in December and that after that she realized how bad it was and she felt the need to contact Katie, who we're going to get into later.
Gee, where have I heard that one before? If you watch Tom's video on the false allegations against him, it's an incredibly similar story to Tectone's, except I think Tom is a little bit more conscientious about this stuff.
And I think that is a great oversight in our culture and the way that we deal with these situations. It should not be the modus operandi or the standard that these women can make these false allegations. And by the way, you notice a pattern? Most of these allegations are false. Most of these allegations are women made it the fuck up. If you know anything about female nature, you know that this is not surprising. If you know anything about the way that women operate, this is not surprising. But in these situations, people apparently shut off their brain because they don't like the person, they think the person deserved it, and so they're willing to play along with the game. It's absolutely despicable. It's disgusting. There's no validity or veracity to any of these claims. And it's for attention. These women farm attention from parasocial simps and retards, morally degenerate, illogical freaks, these homunculus on the bottom feeding element of the internet. These people, you know, and Kiwi Farms actually, I'm not going to shit on Kiwi Farms. I'm not. Because I think Kiwi Farms, to an extent, does a good job of balancing the line between making fun of somebody and then going too far. Now, sure, they can go too far, but, you know, there have been different situations where things, there weren't exactly allegations, but people have come forward and it's been true. Like, for example, with Styx Hexenhammer. The stuff with Styx Hexenhammer is crazy. I haven't even touched that stuff, but a lot of that came out on Kiwi Farms. And thank goodness that it did. Thank goodness that it did. But most of these are just false. They're attention-seeking behavior. But I'm not gonna go hard on Kiwi Farms. Kiwi Farms is having a good week. All right. Chris Chan came out of retirement to get kicked out of a furry convention. Kiwi Farms is very, very happy right now. I imagine they're very happy. Oh, we saw a sighting of Bigfoot. But anyway, let's continue. This is almost over. We got about 10 minutes.
And so he made sure to have evidence of his ex openly saying that she would blackmail him if they didn't get back together.
Immediately after I told Rowan that I wanted to break up with her, she began threatening to post about me online.
I'm gonna make it hard for you to ever be in a relationship.
Okay, Rowan, I just want to move on and have my life, and you'll move on and have your life. And we can be in our own corners. We don't have to do damage to each other.
Like, do you think we'll ever be able to see each other?
After the way these conversations have gone today, I really don't think so.
Why?
Because you're like threatening to blackmail me.
I'm not. Well, if you don't come see me, then I will.
You know what's great about all this? Despite that Tom has her recorded saying that she will blackmail him, there really isn't much remedy you can get against someone for false allegations unless you sue them for defamation, which is expensive and hard to prove, and it's why people feel safe in falsely accusing somebody. And then asshats like Hassan will boost the false allegations without critical thought or saying, where's the evidence?
By the way, one of your OG slop tuber ops, Turkey Tom, also caught a sexual assault allegation where he physically abused 2 of his exes. This didn't even reach your radar because he's laying low. No, it didn't reach my radar because I have so many fucking ops that have done like sexual assault that I don't even know who the fuck this one is. But that's crazy.
There he is.
Yeah, and none of it's true. None of these allegations are true. But Hassan thinks, well, these people, I don't like them, so I can add this to the pot. No, Hassan, none of the people who are against you have credible allegations. You do, though. Because you are a disgusting, subhuman, homunculus terrorist. You are somebody that has called for the death of the President of the United States, and you have posted a makeshift shotgun that was used to assassinate Shinzo Abe to Tom Cotton. You've said, well, if you care about healthcare, you will kill Rick Scott. You use violent, radical language in the hopes of getting somebody to do something extreme. You are a terrorist. Your propaganda is, wow, I went to China and everything's great. Oh, but the U.S. is so bad. Hassan, the fact that you aren't deported, honestly, is a crime against this country. It really is embarrassing. But anyway, Hassan, you lie as easily as you breathe. You don't tell the truth. Hardly ever. You lie about people. You make things up. Yeah, and we're going to get into that because there's another video to do relating to your take, Hassan, on Chibi Reviews. What you had to say about him. So we're going to be doing that too. Son, you are a sick, despicable human being. A godless, soulless, fat kid at heart furry that demonstrates the worst judgment imaginable because you're so insecure and so petty and so vindictive. That's who you are.
Just agreeing with and validating the allegation with no pushback despite knowing nothing about it. Luckily, Tom knew the exact way to humiliate his ex for blackmailing him and how to prove his innocence. But for average people, this can be life-destroying, and there's not really much you can do about it. Anyway, let's go to the court decision. Like everyone else, I already knew the results before I read this transcript, and I was still shocked to see this. Based on the testimony and the evidence that's been provided to the court does find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of sexual assault. The court makes the additional finding that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of stalking and will grant a 10-year protective order. The court means the judge, by the way. The judge made this decision, just to make it clear that this was not a trial by jury. Some additional things. Tectone has to pay $15,000 in lawyer fees to Pink Chew. He can't go anywhere near her. Who cares about that? He obviously doesn't want to go near her. He has lost his right to own a firearm for 10 years, which is nuts considering she didn't really have any evidence that Tectone was dangerous. And he's not allowed to talk about her, which again, is also ridiculous, not because he can't say the name Pink Chew for 10 years, but because of the criteria they consider to be a conversation about Pink Chew. As in, if Tectone ever talks about OnlyFans in a negative light, is he liable for criminal charges? This is insane. Knowing nothing going in, I don't think any reasonable person would have agreed with the judge here. So I started researching on who this person is. Judge Dimple Malhotra. If you go to her website, it basically describes her.
And here we go, guys. Here we go. Let's take a look at the judge. And all of you people, all of you Tectone haters, all of you backbenching cockroaches, if you for a second think this is legitimate, you are fucking insane. And you're a monster. You are insane. If after all that and what we're about to see, if you don't think Tectone is innocent, there is something wrong with you.
Her as an activist who started out by working in San Francisco, California. Remember how I said that Austin is the California of Texas? Also this.
It is so incredibly important that we celebrate and embrace diversity. And I think it's just so important even for this courtroom, when people walk into this courtroom and they're from different ethnicities, cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, to be able to walk in and see someone who looks like me, I think provides a certain level of comfort to them.
An immigrant who grew up in the U.S. with a family environment deeply rooted in Indian culture. Judge Dimple Malhotra is the first and only person of South Asian descent elected to a judicial seat in Travis County history. Oh, great. So she's one of those people where we have to focus on their race instead of their qualifications.
You know, oftentimes I think, especially for me, being an immigrant, being a woman of color.
Basically, I'm saying the judge is woke. Now, there were a bunch of arguments made by Pink Chu's lawyer that didn't really make sense to me. I mean the ones where she brings up Tectone talking about anti-white racism. What does that have to do with this case? What does it have to do with Pink Chu? Why did Pink Chu bring up that she's half Mexican? Why are they making arguments that are irrelevant and would clearly make a judge who ran as a Democrat think that Tectone is a racist? Keep in mind that this court case is occurring on January 23rd of 2026, which is during a bunch of anti-ICE riots and after Renee Good died. These are very politically polarized things to bring up that I think aren't relevant to Tectone's case. I'm guessing that maybe Pink Chu's lawyer did some research on the judge, and maybe this is why Judge Malhotra didn't notice things like Pink Chu's lawyer victim-blaming Tectone for his abuse as a child in her opening statements, something that was immediately noticeable to me. I mean, this statement right here very much makes it seem like Pink Chu was trying to use shame to force Tectone into sex acts that he was uncomfortable with because of his childhood trauma. Wouldn't it be ironic if that were the case?
Because you spent your career doing domestic violence cases and you have a background, some might think that it would be hard for you to be impartial as the judge.
Right.
So how do you maintain your impartiality?
As a prosecutor, I took an oath to seek justice, not conviction. And so people have to remember that and that not to say that there aren't prosecutors in the world who are doing the wrong thing. Unfortunately, with every profession, you have people who really shouldn't be in that profession, who are there for the wrong reason. I took an oath as a
like you
judge to be fair and impartial. And that is also incredibly important. People walking into your courtroom deserve your impartiality and to listen to their side of the story.
That was hard to listen to considering her decision on Tectone's case. How do you stay impartial? That's easy. The answer is she doesn't. Now, this does seem like a random question to ask, so why was it brought up? Well, the answer to that, I think, is a much bigger issue than the diversity stuff from earlier. The answer, I think, is a massive conflict of interest. I believe she was asked that question because a few years prior to this interview, there was an article written on her about how a lawyer got her taken off his case because of her domestic violence activism. Now, I think that trying to stop domestic violence is great. However, I also agree with the defense attorney, Steve Brand, who says that her activism makes her biased towards alleged victims, and there's no way he could win a case with her as a judge. He also kind of recommends that every defense lawyer should be filing a motion to remove her from their case. And personally, after reading the transcript of Tectone's hearing, I agree. And in my armchair internet lawyer opinion with 2020 hindsight, Tectone's lawyer should have gotten Judge Dimple removed and gone with somebody else. I'm curious how many other people like Tectone she's done this to, where the accuser has no corroborating evidence mixed in with strong counter evidence against her story.
A lot of people don't know that there's a huge intersection between gun violence and domestic violence. All the studies that have been done show us that over half of the cases where there have been mass shootings, the mass shooter has had a history of domestic violence.
So, do you guys start to get it now? Does it start to make sense? Tectone was railroaded. He was sandbagged. And again, let me reiterate this. Let me make this crystal fucking clear, because I know that the mouth-breathing troglodyte, bottom-feeding subhuman retards will have trouble processing this. It doesn't matter if you like Tectone or you don't. If you think he's a good guy or you think he's a bad guy. The only thing that matters is the truth of this case. Did Tectone have a fair chance? The answer is fucking no. His ex-girlfriend is a lying whore that exists with lying whores or terrorists like Hassan. It is an incestuous, disgusting circle of people that exhibit the worst of humanity, and then you get him in a courtroom with a batshit moonbeam Austin, California judge that has a history of being biased and having these anti-Second Amendment views, and it starts to make sense. 10 years without a gun, 10 years without his First Amendment right. It is disgusting. If it were up to me, this judge would be disbarred and they'd be deported. Denaturalized, detained, deport. It is insane to me that we have to put up with shit like this. If we were a serious society, this judge would be gone. And any judge like them would be gone. And I'm not talking about on a racial basis. I'm not talking about her race. I'm talking about her politics, her idealism. But it's not idealism, it's propaganda. This woman is willing to deprive a U.S. citizen of his constitutional rights based on the inconsistent and irrational and obviously motivated testimony from this person that is unreliable at best. And Tectone is now stigmatized because of this, because this idiot didn't know about social media and she's an activist. This should not be a judge. This should be a person that is doing something in India. I don't know what she would be doing, but not here. This is absolutely gross. And it's going to take Tectone a long time to undo the damage from this, but I think this is a start. And I just want to say it didn't take me an hour-long fucking video to explain this to me like some of you people. I was able to get this on the first go because I actually looked at the case and I actually took it seriously. I don't take people's reputation and livelihood seriously, seriously the way some of you don't take it seriously. You take it unseriously. You're like, well, who cares? I don't like this guy, so I'll accuse him of rape because, well, I mean, my life's worthless and meaningless, so, I mean, might as well. Makes me feel better for a moment. But it doesn't really make you feel better. It's a placebo. The only thing that you're doing is tearing somebody else down that doesn't deserve it.
Did I hear that correctly? Is this why Tectone has to be treated like a felon for something that, after reading the transcript, I don't think he did? It looks like she's on some sort of anti-gun crusade, which is why she took his access to firearms away for a decade. For a decade, when he's a streamer, which puts his life in danger. Has she ever heard of the phrase correlation does not equal causation? What evidence do you have that Tectone's going to crash out and become like a mass shooter or something? Is this why Pink Chu's lawyer tried to associate him with white supremacy? Is it also why Pink Chu's lawyer, immorally in my opinion, pretended to be a medical expert on schizophrenia to frame Tectone as an unmedicated psycho who could break any time? By the way, Tectone got re-diagnosed, and he doesn't have schizophrenia.
I went to a psychiatrist yesterday. Guys, I'm not schizophrenic. The psychiatrist believes the reason why I see things that aren't there, mainly, well, at night, is due to the fact that I got stabbed in my left eye, and my right eye is normal. And so they believe that my eyeballs are causing me to temporarily hallucinate things that aren't there because they're not signaling my brain properly. And what they believe that I have is anxiety with bad vision, as well as unresolved childhood trauma. And so I was going to actually try to get medicated. They said I do not require medication.
You have to read the transcript to get to the level of fuck these people that I'm at. Basically what's happened here is that to a judge who appears to be in favor of DEI and appears to be anti-gun, Pink Chu's lawyer framed Tectone as a violent, unmedicated, schizophrenic neo-Nazi. Tectone is also bald, so he might as well be seen as a skinhead too. No wonder this trial ended the way it did. This is so messed up, and I don't just think this is a violation of the First and the Second Amendment, but also a violation of the Eighth Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment. It's also clear to me, in my opinion, based on the evidence that I've shown, that a big part of the reason that Pink Chu filed for this protective order is to avoid a defamation lawsuit. Maybe Tectone's biggest mistake here was being openly arrogant around all this during his live streams, but it's hard to blame him because who in the hell would have thought that he would have lost this case based on the evidence in the court transcripts? And you know what the real messed up thing is? Well, I said it already. Pink Chu most likely will not receive any consequences for this, and Tectone will probably not be able to win an appeal because of how appeals court works. The sad truth is that there is very little recourse for victims of false allegations, and if Pink Chu were found to be lying, which, in my opinion, she was, there's basically nothing that you can do outside of suing for defamation, which is incredibly expensive, hard to prove, and Tectone likely would not win a defamation case because the order of protection was granted. Well, if he's even allowed to file a lawsuit like that at this point. On top of that, this horrendous court decision will give protection to people such as Hassan Piker, Denims, Mike from PA, and Miskiff when they call Tectone an abuser, and when they repeatedly lie about the facts of the case.
There was also, and this is confirmed, he had recordings of some of the sexual assaults and his victim in sexually compromising positions and was ordered to delete all of them or else he was going to prison that day. The judge said, if you don't delete them right now, I'm going to put you in prison myself.
This is yet another lie. This did not happen. All the judge said was to not share explicit content of Pink Chu that was privately filmed. As for Tectone, on his return to live streaming after a long break, he stated that he wants to respect the court's decision and move on.
I lost the civil case. I did, but I do genuinely want to respect the court's decision. I believe, even though I lost the case, I do believe that this still gets me to where I want to go, which is for all parties to simply move on. That's pretty much all I want is.
What a magnanimous guy. After being lied about, defamed, dragged through the mud, having his rights stripped away, he's still just like, you know what? I just want to move on with my life. You know, I'll just say there's a special place in hell for these people. There's a special place in hell for these people.
Is for everybody to go their separate ways, to be able to move on and find solace and peace in their life. Genuinely.
That's a very kind way to put it. I'd be a lot more mad. I mean, I was furious at the court's decision after doing the research, and this isn't even my life. But in times like this, I think we can look back on the words of wisdom from Keemstar about it being a stupid idea to date a chick who does OnlyFans. Anyway, thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you.
Yeah, again, if I were to give here, let me just repeat this. Some people say, you're not going to criticize Tectone? No, I will. I'll criticize Tectone right now. These are things that he already knows. These are things that he already learned, but I'll reiterate them. Do not date an OnlyFans whore. Do not, let me repeat that. Do not date an OnlyFans whore. Do not date a prostitute. Do not let them into your home. Do not let them have any access to your business. Keep all of that shit separated. But more than that, don't date an OnlyFans whore. Then, if you do get married, if you do, have them sign a prenup. And also, yeah, that's one of the other reasons why getting married through the church is important. Having strong ties to the church. You know, getting to know people in the church so that you have a community around you. So it's not just you versus this other person. Because, Tectone, if you had been part of the church and you had been integrated with a community of people, they could have vouched for you. They could have come and vouched for you and said, Tectone is a good, hardworking, reliable guy. He's part of the church. Could have had your pastor come down and say a word for you. That all that's important. And that's why the church is needed now more than ever. And Tectone, I hope that you find that. I hope that you find a church that you go to and you go to consistently and you build and develop a relationship with Christ. That's what I hope for you. And that you realize that, there's more than just if a girl's attractive or not. And thankfully you found a fiance that you love. And as it says in the Bible, that you protect that wife with your new crossbow or maybe flamethrower. I don't know if you can set up booby traps around your house now, like Home Alone. Yeah, guys, Tectone's going to protect himself by setting up his house with traps like from Home Alone. Remember, like Marv? He's going to get a tarantula. He's going to get like a thing to put on the door so they electrocute themselves. Yeah. So it says, just smash, not cuff, treat them how they treat themselves. It says, sorry, this is a Christian channel. Avoid them like the plague. Well, you know what? I agree with the second thing. The reality is, if you get into a sexual entanglement with a girl, if you do, whether you're in a relationship or not, you put yourself at risk. Not only because she may have a disease, but also you don't know what's going on in her head. She could be on SSRIs. She could be mentally ill. She could have past trauma. She could be trying to entrap you. The reality is, you should find a good girl from the church. Yeah, just find a good girl from the church. And get married under the church. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching. This is a longer video, but I wanted to cover every bit of it because I think it's important. And my final message is all the people that accuse Tectone of doing this, you owe him an apology, but I don't think that you have the testicular fortitude or the intelligence or the dignity to do it. I think you owe him an apology. I think that you do. And to end things, what I want to show you is this was what Tectone's abused, yeah, ex-girlfriend posted for Valentine's Day. This is what she posted for Valentine's Day. So, anyone who thinks that this person is a victim, you are fucking crazy. This is a victimizer. This is somebody that looks for an opportunity to prey and suck off of other men. And I don't mean that literally, although probably there is a little bit of that literally. And also keep in mind, this woman is more plastic than human. She's got more silicone and more plastic in her body than anyone can imagine. I gotta be honest with you. I gotta be honest with you guys. When I look at this girl, I have a genuine disgust reflex. I like, some guys are like gooning over her. I look at her and she makes me sick. Like, physically ill. She's unnatural. She's godless. She's disgustingly cruel. And she's willing to lie and collude with the worst people on the internet to get what she wants. Well, you know, God has a way of working these things out. And so, yeah, in the end, Tectone seems like he's doing pretty good. Anyway, that'll do it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. See you next time.